Hey guys, we're back. It's Ted Bogert with The Ted Show. And I'm very excited to have this returning guest back, Gabriel Preisser.
You got it. You got it right.
See? And I've known him for a long time, so it's my fault that I do not know how to pronounce his last name every single time. He's with Opera Orlando, and he is a Grammy winner. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Opera for All. I had a lot of people before we went live say, is opera still going on during the pandemic? And so we're excited to have you back on the show, my friend. How are you?
I'm well, and thank you always for having me, Ted. It's good to see you again. I love seeing your smiling face, man. You're always
well. Thank you. Same here. Same here. You've got a better background than I do. I like it.
Well, I came well branded today, just in case.
Well, I'm going to use that. I'm well branded today. All right. So for people who don't know you, though, give them a little background on you, maybe some history on, and maybe a journey on how you got to Opera Orlando.
Sure. Well, I won't make it too long. You know, we don't have all day. But yeah, I grew up here. I'm an Apopka boy, a Florida native, born and raised. Went to school out at West Orange High School. Shout out to the West Orange Warriors. Was introduced by my teachers out there to singing in chorus, to doing school shows. Thought maybe I would do the music theater Broadway route, but they're like, hey, you should probably audition for opera. I was like, opera? What's that? You know, kid from Apopka, we don't have much opera out there. And so I auditioned at Florida State University, fell in love with it right away. Just loved the art form, the challenge of the art form.
Had you not done opera before?
I had not. No, I never even been to an opera. I'd seen some on PBS. You know, my mother played some for me, and you know, you hear opera in commercials, you see some in movies, but I never been to an opera. The first one I went to was when I sang in at college. And like I said, I fell in love with it. It's kind of athletic, you know, singing without a microphone for 3 hours, the challenge of the languages, the sets, the costumes. There's just so many things going on. It's hard not to fall in love with. And so I did my undergrad at Florida State and then did my master's University of Houston, went on to start singing at different opera companies across the United States. Moved back home. The old Orlando Opera Company had closed down, so I got involved with kind of the diehard opera fans here and getting the opera company up and going again. So we launched as Opera Orlando 5 years ago, where opera comes first, right? Not to be confused with the old company, Orlando Opera.
Is that the reason? That makes sense to me now.
Sure. And yeah, it's been a crazy 5 years. You know, COVID aside, we'll talk about that later. We've gone from a $250,000 annual budget to $1.5 million annual budget in 5 years, and from 2 productions a year to 6 productions a year. And we're just very grateful, you know, that there's a great audience here in Orlando. There's some diehards who love opera. But then we also try and do some new contemporary things to reach out to the younger audience, a lot of free performances for kids as well, lots of great families here. So yeah, I truly believe opera's for everybody. And if we can get your butt in the seat, so to speak, you're going to fall in love with it too.
So tell people, you know, I think I always go back to that movie with Julia Roberts, where you either love opera or don't. I think it was Pretty Woman. But I think that people don't know how to love it. I think people are intimidated by opera. And so I think people don't even know where to start, and they don't realize that the music, regardless of, you might not know the language, the music is universal. So talk a little bit about because you talked about education a minute ago. How do we educate people? How do we get people to embrace it more and not be so intimidated by opera?
You're exactly right. There's so many stereotypes around opera. People think you have to dress up, or it's only for rich people, or it's just fat ladies with horns on there. So we try and show people that there are so many different types of opera, and that opera is for everyone. For instance, we're doing our first commissioned opera this year called The Secret River, based on a book by Marjorie Keenan Raleigh. Some of you might recognize that name. She lives in Central Florida. She wrote The Yearling, wrote Cross Creek. So we're doing an opera based on her children's book. And it's a story about an African-American family, hard times during the Great Depression, and their daughter finds a secret river and saves her family, saves her town. So, I mean, it's like, what's not to love about that piece?
Cool.
And we have a local composer, Stella Sung, who works out at UCF. She's writing the music. Pulitzer Prize-winning librettist Mark Campbell doing the libretto. Again, it's in English. It's a story about Florida. There's just so many wonderful things about it. So we try to do a mixture. You know, we're going to do Traviata, which Pretty Woman is based off of, which is kind of a classical traditional opera. We're going to do La Boheme, but then also doing more contemporary things. We're doing a world premiere this month, actually, of Death of Ivan Ilyich, which is based on a novella by Tolstoy. And it's just a 1 hour chamber opera, doing it at the Museum of Art and the Grand Gallery there. So sometimes people think, oh, we got to go into the theater, we got to wear our tux. I mean, this has appetizers beforehand,
nice.
Desserts after. You get to meet the cast, meet the composer and the librettist that wrote this opera. It's in a small venue, intimate venue. You don't have to wear a tux. You can wear your jeans. I know us Floridians, we want to wear our sandals and our board shorts. That's fine.
Yeah.
Come as you are. Because really what opera is our legacy. It's our history through music, right? And so if we can just kind of convince people to get over the stereotypes, come and check it out, they'll hear that music like you're talking about, Ted. They'll fall in love with it. Music is that universal language. It's going to touch you. You're like, oh, I don't know why I was what I was so afraid of.
They do. It's funny because I've had you on before, and I'm a big fan of opera, but I had to learn it. And it's funny because people really do. They're like, God, how am I going to follow the story? How am I going to understand what they're saying? And nowadays, though, if you think about it, a lot of people watch video on silent, and you can see the human emotions just by watching. So it's not the verbiage that comes out. It's really how people are emoting during the performance.
And all of our productions, we have super titles above the stage. So if you're ever worried about, I don't speak Italian, I don't speak French, or sometimes when the singers are singing in English, I get it. It's hard to understand what they're saying because they're singing high cues, or, we have that translation above the stage. There's also a synopsis in your program. But like you're saying, Ted, if you just listen, I mean, even close your eyes and just, or watch the emotions coming out of the performers' faces, like you'll feel it. You'll feel it. And that's what's beautiful about opera. It's the power of music.
You feel it's so powerful, and the stories are usually incredibly powerful. I mean, I find opera to be, it's different than any other performance art. And it just there's so much passion and history involved. What's your favorite? What did you perform? So obviously let's talk about that, because we mentioned it earlier. You're a Grammy Award winner. Congratulations.
I have that with me.
You might have the Grammy Award. Let's see it.
Bring it with me. There you go.
That is so beautiful. What was that like for you?
Pretty surreal till this day. I wasn't able to attend the actual award ceremony because I was singing on a gig. So I'm, backstage, about to go on for the show I was doing with Utah Opera out in Salt Lake City. I'm like looking at my phone to see if I won, backstage. and sure enough, I, popped up. Someone texted me actually that we had won, and I couldn't shout for joy because I'm backstage, but I'm whispering to my colleagues, hey. And I mean, they were all ecstatic for me.
What did you win for? Tell people what the win was for.
So you can see it imprinted here. It's Fantastic Mr. Fox, which is a relatively new opera, and it won Best Opera Recording last year for the Grammy. And I was Farmer Bean in that cast. We recorded it up in Boston a few years back. So just a great piece, very whimsical, very funny. Fabulous music, and as an opera singer, you don't think, oh gosh, I'm going to win a Grammy, right? Because we don't record that. We don't record; it's usually live. So we did that recording, and I was like, oh, this is a fun opportunity to get to record. And then I never thought about it again. And sure enough, we got nominated for a Grammy. It was crazy. It was crazy.
It's just such a big deal. It's really a big deal. I mean, I think a lot of people will say, well, operas, there's only a small group of people that could participate in that, but honestly, opera is worldwide. It's actually a big genre.
It is. No, exactly right. It is a worldwide genre, and there's operas in all different languages. And I think American opera is underappreciated, like Fantastic Mr. Fox or like The Secret River. So the more we can bring awareness to those American composers and that opera is a living art form in our own country, the better.
So I asked you earlier, but then I got off as usual on a tangent. Favorite to sing, because you've performed so much, favorite to perform in, and explain why, because I think the reason why for every singer and every actor is really important for the audience to know.
So my favorite role is probably Figaro in Barber of Seville. I just love it, and he has the famous aria, Figaro, 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 Figaro. And then there's that same character in The Marriage of Figaro. And that's one of the roles that I've done the most. It's just a very fun character. But actually, my favorite opera is Falstaff by Verdi. I've never done it. I've heard it many times. It's a role that I would love to do in the future. There's just something about it's one of Verdi's last opera. Verdi's one of the greatest opera composers of all time. Did Rigoletto, Traviata, Nabucco. But this one is really kind of through composed, and it's a comedy, right? We don't really think of Verdi being a comedic composer. Right. Most of his operas are more on the serious side. And I don't know, there's just something about it. It just keeps going and going and going. The story is based on Merry Wives of Windsor, the Shakespeare story. So it's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. So one of these days, maybe we'll do it. We'll probably update it and maybe do it in English just so people get all the comedy. But
I've seen that a lot. I'm half happy. I'm half happy about that because I think it will broaden it. But I love hearing it in the original language.
Yeah. There's something about the beauty of Italian. I mean, it's a gorgeous language to sing because it only has 5 vowels. It's good to do stuff in English because the audience understands it right away. Right? There's that immediacy. English is not a pretty language to sing in. I hate to admit it, folks.
No, I would. Yeah, I've seen it. That it just, I feel like I get lost more when I am listening to it being performed in Italian. Right. I get lost in a good way. I get lost in the story and really immersed and enmeshed in it. But I still want people to get to like it. So if getting to like it means you will perform it in English so that people can understand it and feel a little more comfortable, that's a great thing, actually.
Yeah, and we try and find that. I'm plugging in my computer because my computer's dying. So
I had to do that earlier.
The interest, she's saving me and bringing me my charger. But yeah, we try and do a mixture of some operas in English and some in the original language, or then again, new operas obviously in English too. But like Hansel and Gretel, which we just did, we just finished, was originally written in German, and it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous in the German. But you want to have young kids come to the show, and you want them to understand it. So it's hard not to do that one in English because it's such a familiar story. So you kind of pick your battles there. And I should mention that in case you missed Hansel and Gretel, because it did sell out for us last week at the Pew Theater. Limited seating with COVID. We do have it available online. That's something we started this year because of COVID, investing in high quality recordings so that way people can watch it from the safety and comfort of their own home. So keep an eye out for Hansel and Gretel. You can go to our website, operalando.org, and buy access. It's only $25 per household to watch opera from home, which is lots of fun.
So we had talking a little bit about COVID. Your pivot and your shift, how did that work in your world? Because obviously all performances stopped in live anyway. Yeah. What did you all do?
So the first pivot was completely to online programming, right? Everyone was shut down, but we wanted to keep in touch with our patrons. So we launched a weekly broadcast, kind of like you do, Ted. We called it The High Note, just keeping in touch with people, giving them opera insights, showing clips of past performances, previews of stuff that was coming up. And then we would typically do our big fundraiser, our gala in early summer, and then a concert series at the end of the summer. We did all of that online, and it was actually very successful. Lots of people tuned in. We had people tuning in from England, from across seas, which we would never have been watching it in person. Yeah, which was great. And our fundraiser was very successful. But then it came time where it's like, okay, you can't really do opera online. in the real sense of the word. I know there is virtual opera happening, and that's great. That's great. But in the sense of costumes, sets, lights, rehearsals, chorus, orchestra, all those elements, there has to be an in-person element to that for all those things to come together. So we put a lot of COVID policies and protocol in place. We postponed some of our performance dates so we could take the time to do that. And we actually put on a full production of Die Fledermaus. That's the Strauss operetta. It's a comedy, absolutely hilarious piece. We did that in December. So
wow.
Had the orchestra on the stage so they could be spread out, and then had a scrim in front of them, and then the performers in the set were in front of that scrim. The performers were also socially distanced. Instead of having the chorus on stage, we actually pre-recorded the chorus. So then we had to synchronize the pre-recording,
wow.
the audio and the video of the chorus with the live orchestra and with the live principals. That took a lot of Harry Potter magic.
Can't even imagine.
And then, weekly testing for our cast, mask requirements, just a lot of, keeping up with the CDC guidelines. But it was such a fulfilling thing because we were able to have an audience all spread out there at the Disney Theater at Dr. Phillips Center,
amazing.
2,700. So there's plenty of room to spread people out. And to see the people's faces and the audience hear their applause and hear their appreciation after the fact, they were just so grateful to have live theater. And we recorded it, right? So if you couldn't come in person,
nice,
feeling safe, so you can watch it from home. And come to find out, Ted, that we were the first indoor full opera production in the U.S. since March.
Wow.
We were the first one.
Wow.
Crazy. Yeah.
Well, you have the infrastructure, you have the experience and the knowledge, and you were able to pivot quickly. And then as you, and I love the fact that you're able to do the productions and do them so that nobody can really say anything. Because, that's what people say whenever I'm out and I go to an event, Ted, it looks like you're not socially distanced. Well, if you set it up the way you did, everything is socially distanced. It's perfect.
Oh, yeah. Plenty of room. And the audience, they were required to wear masks, and the same thing with Hansel and Gretel. But yeah, we got no complaints, knock on wood. And
all right. So tell people how they can reach you, how they can get involved. Maybe they want to get their kids involved. Maybe they want to know more about Opera Orlando. What's the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, our website is operaorlando.org. Email info@operaorlando.org. I mean, I give my cell phone, but my wife might not like that. But we'd love to hear from you. Sign up for our email list. Like I said, we have a world premiere, Death of Ivan Illich, this month. Then we have Carmen coming up April 1st. That'll also be at the Disney Theater, so people can be all spread out. And then we have a workshop of the new opera Secret River that we're commissioning. So you can kind of see how does an opera get put together. And get to meet the composer and meet the cast. So yeah, we're all about just trying to make opera accessible and relevant.
And you're doing an amazing job. All right, my friend, Opera Orlando. You guys go to operaorlando.org. It's scrolling across the bottom. Get involved. This is a great community for this. And you can reach out to Gabriel. He's always available. I will not give your cell phone out either. But one last question before we head out. Do you have a lot of people in your family, kids that are also vocally talented?
I have 2 kids. I think we've talked about my kids before. They're now 4 and 7, Grayson and Corbin, a girl. They both love to sing. And what's funny, Grayson's already at that age where it's like, Daddy, no singing. Daddy, no singing. Right? And like singing's not cool right now to him, but I'll find him singing by himself in his room all the time. My daughter, luckily, she still thinks singing is cool, and she'll sing with me all the time.
I love it.
There's nothing like it. There's
nothing like it.
They have good voices. They have good voices. Me, I'm like, maybe you could be a lawyer or a doctor, something a little more sick. I'm teasing. They can do whatever they want.
They've got a gift. You're amazing, my friend. Thank you so much for all you do. Congratulations again on a Grammy win. It's amazing. operaorlando.org, everybody. Reach out. Thank you so much for being on. It's so great to see you, even though it's not in person.
from this distance.
Yes, from this distance.
Hope to see you at the opera, online or in person, as well as everybody else. See you at the opera, guys.
All right, see you at the opera, guys.